Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. Let's talk about it. Alright, so as much as I love talking about Corvettes, C506s in particular, and I could talk about this car every day, I thought I'd switch it up a little bit and talk about Ford. And kind of introduce a new segment, kind of forgotten failures. Cars that aren't bad cars, it's just they had a kind of a one-off run and they're just kind of forgotten about. Today we're talking about a Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. And I like other cars besides Chevy, believe it or not. I own a Chevy, I own a Mini Cooper, which I love. I own a Ford Explorer, which is a piece of shit. But it's good to go to Lowe's with, and I have a Cadillac SUV, which is awesome. So, the Ford Thunderbird Super Coupe. Typically I write a little script for these videos, but I know this car so well, I think I can just talk about this off the cuff for a good 10 minutes easily. So I'm gonna try that without cropping too much together. So introduced in 1989, it was the predecessor to the Turbo Coupe, which was okay. That was a Fox body Thunderbird in the 80s, the 2.5, 2.3, 2.5 turbo, which it wasn't crazy fast, but given the circumstances with fuel and shit, it got the job done. It was torquey, a torquey little thing. So Ford had the brand new body come out, the smooth body Thunderbird, which in base form was ugly, but the Super Coupe with the rims and the ground effects, it looked slick. It looks real unique. Totally very innovative for 1989. So yeah, that thing came out with a counterpart that actually had a V8, which was the slower model, which was the LX V8 5.0 at the time, was slower than the 3.8 supercharged. I know it's weird. So they introduced this thing, 1988, it's an 89 model. It's a good car, it's a very pretty car. So what was the attraction? What made me like it? I was a high school kid, I was 16, it was my first car. What makes it unique, if you will, and interesting? They were rare. They didn't make very much of them. I don't have the numbers top of my head, but I'll put them on the screen here somewhere. They didn't make very many. And you don't see them at all on the road. Even back then you don't see them. You never see them now. I might see one every 6 months, maybe. And it was a purpose-built luxury performance car, rear-wheel drive with a standard transmission. That was kind of unheard of in this time. Acura was doing some things with the Legend, but that was front-wheel drive. So it kind of loses points for that. So the Thunderbird, yeah, was very interesting at this time. And they really didn't look like anything else on the road. They were very sleek. The rear end from a side profile almost looked like the front end, almost. But it's balanced very well, in my opinion. They were very practical, you know, 5 seats, huge trunk. Pretty much had a Cadillac trunk. These trunks in these things were huge. Somewhat reliable, I'll get to that in a few minutes. The engine noise, the exhaust note, was very unique, and supercharger whine sounded so good on this car. I still remember it, it sounds so good. Between 89 and 95, when they made the Super Coupe, they didn't do many changes. In 94, 95, they bumped the horsepower a little bit, I think 20 horsepower. A few cosmetic changes on the outside. The interior had more of a Mustang feel to it, and they borrowed a lot of parts from the Mustang by 94. I actually prefer the 89 to 93 interior, but that's just me. None are bad, but for its 6-year run, they didn't change too much. Couple little things on the outside. They dicked around with the engine a little bit, some larger fuel injectors and compression. So performance of this car was very not good. And these cars had a lot of torque down low. Torque can only carry you so far. The horsepower numbers were really just holding it back. So you would have easily in the mid 300 torque, but horsepower never got above 230, which is really disappointing. And I really wish they just supercharged a 5.0, even a 4.6. That would have been an awesome car. And I think this car would have a lot more of a cult following if it had some sort of boosted 8-cylinder engine, which they really missed the mark. But I also understand they weren't trying to compete with the Mustang with their Cobra, and Mustang team probably would not have liked that. So I understand that. So 0 to 60 never got below 7 seconds this entire run, but it felt so quick down low. You would think the damn thing was running like 4.5s, but it was heavy too. It was almost 3,600 pounds. It just didn't have the balls, you know? But it felt quick though. It felt like a fast car. Quarter mile times were mid 15s. That's perfect conditions, weather, track, etc. And top speed of just 137. And that was governed. So I'm sure you can uncork it and get a little bit out of it. The car is very aerodynamic. So I think the car could easily, on stock suspension setup, a little more power, no governor, 165. Better tires too. So the cost. It wasn't priced out of its segment, whatever segment I was trying to be in. It started around 20 grand in 89 and all the way to 95. You could pick one up for about 25, which today's money, between $42,000 and $46,000. So they weren't stupid expensive. It was just hard to find a market for it. Someone that could justify wanting this over something else in the Ford Mercury Lincoln lineup. So why did it fail? What happened? A few of the reasons I already explained, but a few more. At the end of the day, it looked fast. It had a lot of unique things, parts thrown at it, but the numbers were never there. It was never a fast car that got people's attention. It lacked luxury for being a luxury car compared to luxury vehicles in the class I was trying to compete with. It lacked technology at the time. I remember it had those god-awful, stupid seatbelts where you click them into the, almost like the A-pillar, and you open the door, they move automatically. It was one of the stupidest designs I've ever seen. I understand what they're trying to do, but horrible execution. I think by like 97, those are totally phased out of all markets. So yeah, that was dumb. And this lacked innovation beyond its styling. No new exciting things. You got a very smooth car, very aerodynamic, but that was about it. No new features inside, minus that stupid seatbelt thing that I can remember. Yeah, there's nothing too exciting about it. So yeah, it was marketed in all these segments, but it didn't excel in any one segment. So it was just like a lost kid in the mall, just like, someone love me, someone take me home, you know? And yeah, Ford just didn't know what to do with it. So come 95, they were like, all right, Super Coupe, you're done. And 2 years later, the LX base model, done. And to make matters even worse, the 3.8 engine, horribly designed engine. Now, on paper it's nice, it's engineered okay, but in practice, the heads never fit right on the block. And almost every one of these cars, either the boosted or non-boosted version, at about 70,000 miles will blow gaskets. And even replacing the gaskets, they would still blow. So they couldn't hold compression to save their lives. And once you saw the temperature gauge creep up at all, you knew that was it. You know, you're gonna spend a few $1,000s to fix it if you didn't know how to fix it yourself, which is unfortunate. I think it could have been a lot more of a cult classic with better execution, but again, hindsight's 2020. I still like the car. Whenever I see one, I get kind of like excited, like, oh, a Super Coupe, and people don't understand why. To me, it's kind of nostalgic. You know, I used to have one, but I would like to see Ford in the future bring back that segment now that Mercury's gone, and make a proper, unique Thunderbird. The name's got a lot of lineage. People will buy it with the name alone. It didn't happen in the 02 to 05 because that execution was terrible. But if done right with the manual gearbox, it could be a cool car. I'd like to see the Ford Thunderbird come back one day. So Ford, if you're listening, get your engineers working on that, because my viewers want to see a new Thunderbird. Or maybe not. Maybe they're mad because they're watching Thunderbird stuff on the Corvette channel. I don't know. Well, that's it for today, guys. And then hopefully next week I'll have another forgotten failure on the channel. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of cars that you just forget about. You're like, damn, that's a cool car. What happened to that car? So no shortage of material on this, if you will. All right, guys. Oh, election's over, kind of. So I'm really happy all the commercials are done. But I have a feeling it's going to be a shit show for like 2 months. It's just hang in there, guys. And I will never bring up anything political. So don't worry about that. All right, guys. Take care. Later.